Going to get a couple of things set here before we get started. And I kind of titled today's webinar really simply, just tool time. And I really like that title because I used to like the show back in the day. But a lot of things that we do are really just about how we're going to, what tools we're going to use and what things that we have that we're going to help the people that are moving into the area with, or people that are looking, whether they're sellers or people that are moving into the area. We want to be able to help them. And I'm excited about some of the things that I'm seeing in the real estate industry where people are actually building some really effective tools for that. And that's what gets me excited about where things are going. So I was going to start off with a little more of an explanation or kind of a review of last week, and I really don't want to do that. I'm going to do a little bit just so that we can get a few more people in here because I can see people are still coming in. But as soon as I see a couple more people come in, we're going to just jump right into some of the tools and go from there. We talked last time about, let me go to here, we talked about the experience curve and what a buyer experiences when they're going through things and why they really, the more good things that we can give them, the more information that we can give them, and the more things we can do to further the process along, the better off we'll be. And sometimes that means helping them tie things together, like tying some of the negative stuff with the positive stuff so that it really gets done and goes right. Okay, I can see we got a few more folks in, so I'm going to go ahead and switch over, and I'm not going to go through some of the PowerPoint stuff I was going to do. I want to go right to some things that you may have seen, but that there's some new stuff too. Okay, somebody just said that the audio is gone. Can you hear me? Can somebody let me know that they're hearing me now? Okay, good. So the whole idea here, I'm going to open up the I'm going to open up the browser here, and I want to go to WalkScore, and I want to show you some new things about WalkScore that you may not have seen. I'm sure many of you have used WalkScore before. It's just walkscore.com, and I don't know how many of you use that with your clients, but basically, if somebody's looking for a downtown sort of setting, or even looking for a setting where they're wondering about how easy it is to move around the area and what amenities are around, WalkScore is great for that. If you go to walkscore.com, you can, and I'm just going to click on WalkScore so you'll see what they see when they first go in there. This is what they see, and basically they just type their address in, and then they hit go. It's really simple, and when they do that, they can actually see all the different things. You can see, restaurants, boutiques, gas stations, food, the whole thing. It's all there. Transportation, and so they can see these little spots on a map. It's commonly known as what's called a Google mashup, and a Google mashup is basically, it mashes up the mapping data, and it takes the data that's in the city, and it puts it right on the map so people can see it really easily. Okay, well, that was really, really neat, but what they added a couple days ago is even better. And if you look down here in the middle, it says get a commute report. This is amazing, and this is what I really want to go into today, because I think this is something you may not have seen. You may get somebody to go in here and put their address in and hit go, but if you can get a commute report, you can take them from any address in Hampton Roads and tell them what it's going to be like to commute to wherever they're working. And that's where it gets cool. So I want to show you what I did. Of course, me not knowing the area, and I'm going to go, what I did was I typed in the Chesapeake office, I typed in the Virginia Beach office, and I hit calculate. And it's under this little tab that says your commute. Pretty cool, huh? Here's what it does. It says if I was walking, it would take me 4 hours and 26 minutes to get there because it's 13.48 miles. If I was on a bike, I could do it in an hour and 23 minutes. I would take a little bit longer because there's a little longer route to get there. If I was in a car, it would take me 24 minutes to get there. Okay? And so there's this is and all this is done just by simply putting in the address to and from. So here's an application on how you can use that with somebody that's relocating into the area. All you have to do is have them put in the address of where they're working. Then what you do is you go back and type in the various different addresses where they're looking, the various different neighborhoods that they're looking at, and maybe a house that they're looking at. So when they do that, they will see what the difference is in their commute time, and it doesn't matter. The neat thing about this is Walk Score, when it was originally designed, was really specific. It was designed for downtown urban sort of settings. And now with this new tool that they just launched, what we can actually do is use that same tool, the same Walk Score tool, but now we're using it for people that are just trying to commute to, let's say they get, PCS transferred to Norfolk, right? And they have a specific destination that they're going to be going to every day to work. What they want to know is how long I want to live in an area that takes me less than 30 minutes to get to work. Well, the problem with Hampton Roads is that there's all these little inlets and outlets and different ways of going about this. This actually uses Google Maps and goes out and calculates that, which is really nice. So what that allows them to do is really quickly see different options that they have, and not just put rings on a map, because one of the problems with a radius search and rings on a map is that really doesn't work in your area. If somebody just puts a ring in a map, they could be across a bridge that would take them a lot longer, or they could be off on a side road that would be very difficult for them to get to work. And this calculates that using Google Maps so that it makes it really easy for them. This is something that you can really use with anybody. You can set it up with them. The other thing you can do, now they do have a premium version where you can actually put this on a blog, on a WordPress blog or what have you. So if you're a blogger, I used to not really think of Walk Score as that great a thing because it does slow a blog down a little bit, and unless I had a really specific application in the center part of town, I used to think of that as, well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I really like the idea of using it for commute times and referencing that as part of what you blog about. And so if you're a blogger and doing that, that's really not a bad idea. I do want to talk a little bit about, if you look up here where it says Walk Score of 58. Now the Chesapeake office, it has a Walk Score of 58. I want you to be able to put that in relative terms so that people can understand it, because a lot of times what they'll do is when they put that on there, they are looking at it as a magic score in the sky. Basically, this is just a relative number that says how easy is it to get around and get the stuff that you need. The Walk Score can drop if there's something that you need. Say, for example, transportation is a long ways away, and so it's not walkable. So that's really, I mean, that's great if you're downtown and you're looking at how walkable something is, and you really want to promote what kind of an urban lifestyle you can live in. But where I see the value for everybody around here is the commute time. And somebody asked, let's see, it says, can it be filtered for average time of a particular time of day? No, it really can't. It's done overall, and it's not saying you're going to get, you're able to, because sometimes, some points of the day, it's, for example, just take our example here, going from Chesapeake to Virginia Beach. It's very difficult to be able to tell. Just because it says 24 minutes does not mean if I leave now, I will be there in 24 minutes. I wish that was the case. There's always something going on, and it isn't giving you it isn't giving you real-time data. What it's giving you is typically what it would take. And so it takes an average of the day. It will not take, obviously if you go in rush hour, it'll probably take you quite a bit longer, depending on the route that you go. And that's where little things like GPSs are handy. But overall, it's a pretty effective tool. And if I remember right, when I was there, and I actually went from Chesapeake to Virginia Beach with Gary, when we were talking, you know, we went from the one office to the other. That's about what it took to go there. And so I think the issue that you guys have is, as when you're bringing somebody into the area, one of the issues is looking at a map can really get people confused as to what's close and what's not. You could have something that's geographically within 10 miles that takes a long time to get there. And so this kind of helps that process out. Is it perfect? No, it's not going to be perfect. But, you know, perfect, like you say, would be to calculate it near real time. But the other answer is, and for me the important answer is, that it does give you a pretty good generic idea of what it's going to take to commute there. And you can utilize this with folks if they're looking at different properties and they're trying to evaluate them in different areas. So for example, if they're looking at someplace in Chesapeake, they're looking at someplace in Virginia Beach, they're looking at someplace in, you know, wherever around Hampton Roads, you could say, well, you know, one of the pluses and minuses here is that you're going to be, with this one, you're going to be closer to where you're working, and that sort of thing. The other thing that this is good for is that the consumer can use this, the client can use this at home in you know, New York City, or, you know, Manhattan, Kansas, or wherever. They can plug it in, and once you show them how to use it, they can do the same exact thing, right? So it really is a handy thing for you to be able to do it. And that brings me back to a point that I really want to make about these kind of tools. And that is, a lot of times the difference between you really taking control and being a resource for a client, especially a buyer, is if you can show them something that they haven't seen before. If you can show them something, they're out there browsing the web, but if you can show them one thing or two things that really help them, for example, something like this, or maybe another example would be if you were able to share some school information with me about my kids. I've used this example in the past. Two of my kids are on the autistic spectrum. So if you can come through and say, provide me with something that is of benefit, and say, listen, here's some information, or here's a place to find information, then that can really help me get to where I'm going. So those are the kind of things that actually really do help you cement that relationship with somebody and turn you from, you know, you want to separate it from, you want to change that relationship, transform it from, I'm just a website and I'm a guy and I'm a real estate agent that you contacted through the website, and you want to change it to, hey, you know, my name's Eric and I'm a friend and I can help you and I've got resources for you. And if you can make that transition, they're going to be a client. You know, they may not, some of them may not buy, they may not qualify, there may be other extenuating circumstances, but you've really at least bonded with them, and when they are ready to buy, when the economic conditions for them are right, or when they do get transferred into town, you know, with a military relocation, you are going to have the tools that you need. So that's a really good way to look at it, and that's the whole goal of some of these tools, is to create that. I hope that was helpful to do. Walk Score but Walk Score is more than just, a lot of times we look at it as just how urban of an environment and what are the amenities around it, and it does a good job of that. I mean, if you look at, if you go back to the beginning, and let's just say I'm going to take the Chesapeake, Virginia, and I'm going to copy that, okay, and we're going to go back to the beginning, and we're going to put that address right back into the thing. You can, and then hit go, okay, it pops up and it will show you a lot of the different shopping, groceries, coffee, you know, restaurants, schools, parks, right? And it shows you on the map right here where everything is, which is kind of neat that they can instantly grab that. Okay, so I mean, that's one way of doing it. And now the next piece of this is obviously if we're looking at this, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint and look at some other tools. So this is the first one. I like doing that. I like looking at the commute. I think that's an amazing tool. So now we're going to go back, and I'm going to skip past some of this other stuff that we were going to do. Okay, and we talked a little bit in the past about what they want is they want area information, they want cost of living data, they may be looking for a job for the trailing spouse, they may be looking at schools information, they may be looking at crime data, those types of things. So I want to show you another one that I'm really excited about and that I really like. Now it's a little different, it's a little more commercial. A lot of times we look at these pieces, these websites out there and the information tools that are available, and we go, oh my gosh, why are they charging? Why are there ads? Why are they this or that? They have to be able to pay for what they do and for building some of these tools as well. Whitefence.com is an interesting one, and the reason why I'm taking you there is because when somebody gets relocated to an area, they're a lot of times looking for the most affordable way to do things. And once again, I'm going to bounce out of the PowerPoint, and I'm going to pop up White Fence, and I will show you what we did here. And I'm going to move. This is whitefence.com, and what you do is you put your street address in and your zip code, and you can select the different services that you may want, and you hit go. And what it does is it goes out and scours from a lot of their providers and picks the best deals that are out there for them in connecting. So for example, if they're trying to get hooked up with their internet, it'll kind of give them an idea of what's available. This is more useful for somebody as they move in. And is it perfect? Again, no. But is it pretty good? Yeah. So let's go hit back, and maybe you guys can actually do this on some of your existing stuff. Maybe it's on your house and see if you save money or whatever. That's a possibility too. Let me go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here. Okay. And what I did here was I just clicked electricity, and again, I just used the Chesapeake address, and I clicked electricity, and it says, now granted there's only one power company, so so all you do, it says establish service through Dominion Virginia Power directly by, and it gives you the phone number and the order form and the website. Okay, so that's easy enough, but that's really not what's there. If you go to for example the internet, okay, and there's a little ad that pops up. I'm going to close that. Okay, and it's going to pull up all the different high-speed internet options for you, and since Verizon is a partner of theirs, it's going to put in the different options. Okay, so you can get one for $39.99 a month, which is pretty handy. And then all you have to do is click through to there and be able to see what the offers are and actually connect with these folks. That's how this works. And at the same time, you've already done electricity. You could do television. Right, and it says please wait while we search the web for the best prices, and in this case it's and I just put in the address for Chesapeake office. All right, and it'll actually go out and find the best deals that are out there right now. And DirecTV has a bunch of different options, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but basically that's how you work this. Now, fair warning, when you use this tool, and you may want to let them know that as well, is that there are a couple of different things that you can use, and some of these options may not work because they may not have partners in all these different areas. What White Fence basically is a portal, and what a portal is out on the web is a place where you can go and gather all the information, and then it connects you to the actual people that do the work for you. And that's what this is about. There's different cell phone packages. The bundles are interesting because what they do is they put together different packages. If you think about some of your cable TV companies do that. They say, oh gosh, well if you'll bundle your phone in, and you'll do our cable TV, and you'll do your internet access all together, you know, in our area we have that. It's called a triple play, and they give you a special deal if you do that. Well, that's what a bundle is, and so they can actually go out and compare. It's like it says, compare, connect, and save. And that's a pretty slick way of doing it. Be aware that this is a commercial website. These guys are out there to make money. Their whole purpose is, you know, by creating a channel where people will go via the web to the folks like DirecTV, they're making money from this. They aren't charging the customer anymore, you know, than they because but they're going back to DirecTV as a sponsor to say, hey, look, if you want to list your stuff on in our area, you need to pay us an advertising fee to do that, and that's how they make their money. But whitefence.com is a pretty good one. So that you know, they actually power some of the relocation tools that that Realtor.com uses. So if you go out to, there's several ones for Moving.com and some of the others that are out there, and we're going to go look at a couple of those. But excuse me, when we go and look at those, you'll see that they're actually the one behind that. So that when somebody goes to Realtor.com and they want to compare services and they click on it, sometimes they're going to White Fence. And so I prefer just to take them straight to White Fence and save the hassle, because all they have to do is put their address in there anyway, and it's all there for them. Okay, so we've hit two of my favorites already. With White Fence and with WalkScore and especially with the new commute feature that they have on there. By the way, I will be writing up doing a little video for Treg training on how to do how to put WalkScore into your blog, and so that you can do that. So if you're wondering about how that works, I'll be doing a little video on that so that you can see it. Because you know, this all sounds great, and the neat way to do it right now is just to send your client to them. But ideally, some of these things you'd actually like to put on your blog if you're a blogger, and keep them there on your blog, and especially things like WalkScore, that can be a way to do it. I would caution against some of the WalkScore things that you can put in there will add it on to every single listing, and the problem with that is it really slows down a blog, and that's what's held me back from doing it before, was that it really slows it down. Okay, let's go back up to some of the other things that we're going through. And first of all, does anybody have any questions before I go on? Let's go ahead and hit questions about WalkScore and White Fence or any of those. If you have a question, just feel free to type it in. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's not too bad. So that is where we're at. All right. Great. So now I'm going to go to Moving.com. Now, I will tell you that for the most part, Moving.com and Move.com and Realtor.com, and there's a senior, I can't remember the name of it, but I will look it up in a second. We'll see it in a second because I think I put it in the presentation. All of these sites are owned by Move Inc., which is a publicly traded company that so there's a lot of commercial content on there. You'll see a lot, and I'm just saying that as fair warning. You're going to see a lot of ads, and if somebody fills out, if you send this to somebody and they fill it out and say, yeah, I'm moving, I want to use this cost calculator for what it's going to cost me to move, they are going to get a quote request from some moving company or something. All right, it is a commercial enterprise, and you want to make people aware of it. And the change of address, I boiled Moving.com down to two separate addresses or two separate URLs that I thought were useful. I really left the rest of them alone, not because they aren't useful, but because there was so much commercial content on there that I thought maybe that would be a little off-putting to some people. So I'm not saying it's not useful. You could just tell people, hey, go to Moving.com. You know, there's a lot of useful information. But for me, there was a little too much commercialism going on, and so I found two things that you could link up to from a blog or from your website, and one of them that I found that was useful was Moving.com/tools/change of address. And what this is is it's a quick way for you to go and, okay, it's telling me that my audio is cutting out. So can everybody still hear me okay? Can you guys hear me okay, or is this? All right, hang on just a second. We're having a little issue here. Um, okay, I know I've lost the audio, so we're trying to reconnect that. Be right there. Can you guys hear me now? Okay, good. Whew. Man. All right. So apparently we got that back up and going. Okay, great. So let's go back. And I'm going to go back to here where we're talking about moving.com. Basically, the change of address is a way for you to quickly change your address with the post office and with a bunch of other places around town. And what that does is you put your name in one time, and it will automatically go out and change your address. It'll go to the post office and say, please forward their mail. It'll do all of that stuff for you. So that's a pretty useful tool. That's one that I think is worth looking at. So let's go take a look at it real quick. All right. I'm just going to, since I don't think I had this one pre-set up, we'll go here and go up to the site. Okay, this is called the address changer, so you can see it now. And what it does is you simply go in and you say change your address, and it asks that it's residential moves only, so you don't want to do this if you're a business, obviously. But you hit change your address, and first you have to create an account or log in and password to do it. And what that does, that's going to trigger some junk mail coming your way. But if you do it, it'll notify the post office, magazines, catalog. It'll ask what your current address is, what your future address is going to be. And so this is something that you don't do until you're near closing, but it will start forwarding the mail, and you can actually it'll ask you if you want quotes or estimates on doing different things, like for renting trucks, or for getting a quote from movers, that sort of thing. So that's why I say be careful of this being a really commercialized thing, but it is really useful, and it's one place. It's a one-stop place where they can go and get a lot of this done. Like everything else, it has a price, and the price is that you give up a little bit of your anonymity to do it. The other one that moving.com has is a coupons page, and it's moving.com/coupons. Now, everybody's into coupons these days. I don't know whether you guys see that television show. My wife watches it. My wife is one of those extreme couponers. She's really good at it. Now, she doesn't spend all her day doing it like those guys do, but I really wasn't a fan until she came back from the supermarket, and she goes, I got all this stuff, and I got it for $35. I was like, okay, I'm now a fan. But coupons are a big thing these days, and one of them, the moving.com/coupons, if you go there, and I'm going to send this out to everybody so that you can just go out there and look at it. But what it does is it has discounts from a lot of the people that sponsor their site. There's several moving companies that do it. There's a Penske truck rental. There's boxes and supplies and all sorts of stuff. And there's coupons for that stuff. And it's kind of like the other one that I want to mention here. I'm pretty sure that most of you already do Lowe's RealtorBenefits.com. If you don't, you should. It's pretty easy. Basically, if you go to Lowe's RealtorBenefits.com, you can jump right in. And what they're doing is they're co-branding stuff. So basically, they put your name and brand and connect it and send it out to your client, and they give them a 10% coupon for when they come into the store if they want a 10% off of buying something. So that's a really good way for them to sell more stuff, and it's a good way. They know, the guys at Lowe's are smart. They realize that when someone's moving, that's the time when they're going to do most of the home improvements, whether it's selling or whether it's buying. Either the person that's selling needs to clean up some things and and do some stuff, or the person that bought it may not have bought it in pristine move-in condition and may want to make changes. Maybe they want to paint rooms different colors, what have you, and maybe they need appliances, that sort of thing. And so what they do is they send out special deals to them. And the neat thing about Lowe's Realtor Benefits that is not with moving.com is Lowe's Realtor Benefits is branded for you. It's got your face and your contact information, and you set that up. It does take a little while to set it up, but if you haven't done Lowe'sRealtorBenefits.com, I would highly suggest it. Moving.com is kind of the same thing, except they're not giving you any credit for it. They're providing the tools, but they're just moving on. So one of the things that I would recommend with that is just these two sections. The change of address and the coupon section are pretty much the most worthwhile things that you can do with it. Okay, we're going to go to seniorhousing.net. This is another one of the move ones, and I put this up here because it's an interesting niche. All right, and it is a specific niche. So for someone who is looking to downsize or looking into assisted living or doing any of those types of things, or the people that care for them, you know, I'm at an age where my parents are at that age, you know, so I'm working with them on these kind of issues, and I have no idea how this stuff works. So this is a pretty good resource. Seniorhousing.net is a pretty good tool if it's somebody that's 55 and over. It is pretty commercialized. Like I say, there's a lot of commercial content, but it's the most complete resource that's out there, and that's the good news. The bad news is that there's commercial content on it. So that's something to keep in mind, and it's something if you have somebody that's relocating that has that. The cost of living calculator, we talked about that last time. I'm going to just remind you of that. Salary.com, still by far the best cost of living calculator out there as far as I'm concerned, because it does the cost of living wizard, and it calculates your commute too, but it does it generally by city, whereas the ones that we did with with the walk score, that was very precise. It could tell you, door to door what it was going to be. So this is more general, but it's still a great cost of living wizard, and it will calculate it so that they can get an idea of what they're getting into when they come into the Hampton Roads. Okay, and it's a big long URL. I'd recommend just putting a little resources page on your website and putting some of these links into it, so that you can just basically, when somebody asks you, you say, listen, go to my website, if it's go to ericblackwell.com or whatever it is, and then go to my resources page, and you will see a place to go to get connected with all of your get connected with your utilities and your phone and all that. And in this case, go to my website, go to the resources page, and there's a salary cost of living calculator right there. If you do it that way, what you're doing is you're continuing to bring them back to your site. And in that sense, a lot of people have asked me, they say, well, is it bad to link out from your website? Well, you're not linking out from your website. You're linking out from an individual page on your website with the express purpose of having people come to your website and see you as the resource. So you want to put that on there and make that a resource page for them so they can do some of this stuff, and it really will help you, because when they come back, they'll get another dose of your branding. They'll be able to go back to your website and look for more houses. The whole thing, it works all the way around. Okay, we did walk score. we talked last time about Indeed.com as a job search for the trailing spouse. I really went out and looked over the past 2 weeks to try and find anything else that could really compare with Indeed in terms of just quickly and simply finding opportunities for people, and I honestly don't see one out there. It is the most relevant. I looked at Career Builder, I looked at Monster, I looked at all of them. I looked at everything I could find, and the truth of it is that there really isn't anything that is as easy as that. So I think that's still the tool of choice. We talked about greatschools.org last time, and I'm just blowing through these to get to some more tools. And Great Schools is the standard in terms of what you're going to get. Like we said before, remember, it's important that if you weren't here a couple weeks ago, that every area is going to have some good schools and some schools that are not so good. And so the way to work through that is to simply find one of the higher rated schools and send that to them as an example of the information that you can get. Send it to them as an email and say, here's an example of a really good school that is rated in there in Great Schools, and this is what you can get in Great School at greatschools.org. So that way they don't brand the area as bad just because the first thing they grab is something that is not necessarily a great school, because you don't know what they're going to see first, and you want to be able to control their first impression. There was a friend of mine who's a relocation expert, and when I say that, she basically did relocations for large companies for 15 or 20 years, and one of the things that she did was she had a consulting business called Louisville First Impressions, and the whole point of that was that she would work with companies so that the first impression that they got of Louisville, coming to Louisville, was a good one. That was her whole point in doing things, was everything that she did was designed to make the first impression that they got a good one, and that has really stuck with me. I think that has a lot of value. And when somebody wants to see the Hampton Roads, I know I had a very different idea of the Hampton Roads, what it was like, than when I got there. And I was really impressed. I mean, it was one of those things where, I was like, well, Gary, what's it going to take for me to come out here and stay out here? I liked it. And it's a different, it's a different mindset, but we've got to be, really cognizant of what we're doing in terms of creating a first impression. But greatschools.org is still the best one there. I did find a pretty cool thing on one of your TV stations, and I think somebody sent the initial page to me. I can't remember, but I really, really like some of the resources that were there. And if you go to wavy.com, and it's a little long to get there, but if you just Google WAVY private school guide, you'll see it. If you just Google that is a really neat little private school guide that they've put into their website. So if you haven't used that, pretty cool resource. They've also put in, and I may just take you there real quick because we got a sec. Let me see if I can. Oops. Okay, I'm gonna go back here, and I'm gonna bring it up so that you can see it. If you just Google Wavy private school guide. Okay, and now what we're going to do, it's right here. This is you can see this is a really long address, right? So if you just Google that, that's probably the best way to do it. And here's what it does. It's really kind of neat. It has a private school guide right here, and you just go preschool and elementary school, middle school, high school, or special needs. Well, that's really simple. So let's just go high school. Okay? And did I click it or not? There we go. Okay. So now what you're going to see is it just goes down and it lists some of the things like Chesapeake Bay Academy, right? and it puts more info on each of these different places, which is pretty cool. It's also something that comes from the local media station, so that's always good. That's where you can go in and show them a little bit about Chesapeake Bay Academy. So that's another source of good information. It's not as cut and dry as the greatschools.org. It's a lot more home, it's a lot more home friendly, and it's a place where the local school can actually talk about itself a little bit. So the chances are the information is going to be more positive here than it will be on Great Schools. So I want to show you that. The other things that they have, and I'm going to go back to here now, is that they have a summer fun guide. That's the same thing. If you just type in WAVY and Google WAVY Summer Fun Guide, the neat part about that is a lot of times people, even though you live in the area and you're an expert in the area, and they say, well, gosh, what is there to do around town? And you guys are blessed with a great area with a lot to do and a lot of good resources. But right when you say it, as soon as you say that, they ask the question, you kind of blank out and you go, oh, crud, what is there to do? Well, what you can do is you can go to my website under my resources page, and I've got a link to a local place that has a summer fun guide that talks about all the little different things that are out there to do. And there's a lot more than that, but it talks about quite a few of them. So it'll give them a little thing. You don't have to tell them go to wavy.com/subindex/online_guides, all that stuff. But basically what you're doing is you're giving them some resources to go look at things. And so that's how you that's one way to make that happen. All right. So that's WAVY, and I really like the fact that they did that. One of the other things that we see every now and then is we see people like doityourself.com. They have projects, and they just want to know, well, how do I do this? Or they say, gosh, this is too tough to do, and they don't have money. Or a lot of times these days it's, well, I would love to, repaint the living room, but I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't have money to go out and or put flooring down, put the laminate flooring down, that sort of thing. And they don't know how to do it. If you go to doityourself.com, basically what doityourself.com is, and again, it's a lot of commercial content, but it is very focused on having it's basically an article repository from people who have written how to do things. Kind of in the same way a recipe site would have all the recipes. Well, this is a recipe site for how to do stuff, do-it-yourself projects around the house. And so it's pretty easy to find what you need. They've designed it so that if somebody was to Google, how do I install a laminate floor, that they show up. That's what they've designed it to be. But what will pop up is a list of articles that are farther in their site to all sorts of things that might be related. So if you go to doityourself.com and you click on, painting or something like that, it'll take you right in, and you'll be able to go through and send it to. You can send somebody there who's maybe it's a first-time home buyer or first-time home seller. After they bought their first home, they've lived in it for a few years, and they're ready to move up, or they need to move out, whichever the case, and they don't have the money because they bought 4 years ago, and so they don't have a lot of money to spend, but they want to do they need to do the project. They need to clean some stuff up, and maybe they need to fix some plumbing or something like that. This is a quick way to send them to some decent do-it-yourself instructions, or for you to find them so that you can forward the link to them. And I'm going to show you another way that you can utilize doityourself.com, and that's if you're blogging. A lot of times we look at different, bloggers come to me and they go, gosh, I'm out of ideas. If you're ever out of ideas about home fix-up projects that you might want to mention on your blog about how it increases the value of a home or what needs to be done, just go to doityourself.com and noodle through for about 10 minutes, and I promise you'll come up with about 10 good ideas, and just write them down on a piece of paper, and you'll be back in business and blogging really quickly. It's just such a big database of all these articles that it really does provide. It's a good tool for you to kind of stimulate your thinking if you haven't done that in a while. And it's a way to get your mind on track. I read a post by somebody, I think it was yesterday, that I wanted to throw into here, and he's a blogger. He's actually, I know who it was now. It was Guy Kawasaki, and who's, online marketing guy, marketed, for Apple, big consultant, that sort of thing. And he said that in a typical morning he will create between 8 to 12 blogs, and he budgets, a few minutes for each one of them to get them all done. And so his point is that he's very prolific in how he does it. I was a little bit stunned by that because I thought I was quick, but I'm obviously not. But his point was he has a ready source of that kind of inspiration. I think doityourself.com is a pretty good resource for that as well, as just being a good resource for people that are sellers. Okay, I want to talk real briefly about iPhone apps and Android apps as it all boils down into real estate. One of the hottest things that we see right now is everybody goes, ooh, I've got this real estate app, and ooh, I've got that real estate app, and we're working on some things that are going to be really good. But for right now in the market, basically, if you, in terms of national apps that are out there for iPhone, Android, and that sort of thing, they fall into two categories. They fall into the category for the this is not, I'm going to overgeneralize, and I'm going to say that up front, but they fall into two categories. One of them is a calculator or an analysis tool that you can use on your iPhone or Droid, and the other one is the other tool is a home search tool. And so folks like Realtor.com and Zillow and Trulia and all those guys, they have national level apps where they can, anybody can search for a property on their iPhone. And so it boils into those two categories. For the most part, you really don't want to point anybody to a search app that's point them towards Zillow or whatever. You can put them right back into your website, and that'll do what you need them to do for now. But the other category is what I wanted to talk about, which is the calculators. The real estate, there's one called Real Estate Calc, there's one called Property Evaluator, there's one called the Analyst, and and then it has real estate after that, and another one called Property Flipper. And I'm not going to go in and show you all these, but I'm going to just talk through what they are and what they do, because they have different roles. They're all four calculators, and they all four, do the typical mortgage calculation and that sort of thing. The Analyst is more of a detailed analysis tool for investors, so they can go in and analyze whether this property is for them. Property Flipper is kind of like the Analyst Junior. It's designed to be, if you've got a buyer who's an investor, who's a property, who's really focusing on just flipping properties, not really focused on taking it for a long, taking the long term with it. The Property Flipper, basically, when I say it's the Analyst Junior, the Analyst is more of a longer term. There's a lot more tools in it, but the Property Flipper is designed for somebody to quickly go into a house, and as they're walking through, kind of tally up in their head, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that, here's my expenses, and pop those in there and calculate out if they can sell it for X amount, what's it going to net back to them. And that's really what it's designed to do. So if you've got investors and you're into, or if you're an investor and you want to look into these apps, not all of them are free. Some are, some of them are 99 cents, some of them are $1.99, some of them are $6.99. But what I found with the iPhone apps these days is that the really good ones are worth paying a little something for, because they're so much better than the other ones, and you'll get more out of them in many cases. So these are four apps that you can use. Unfortunately or fortunately, there's really not a lot of great apps that are doing things for people that are relocating to an area. Now these all could be useful for somebody that's relocating in the sense that they can calculate a mortgage, they can do that sort of stuff. But the mortgage calculation stuff is probably better. You're probably better off hooking them up with a mortgage lender to, with an MLO, to be able to sit down with them and talk with them about their application and everything else at the same time. You can calculate all you want and make assumptions based on that, but unless you've got your, unless you're going through the application process, you don't know what the rate's going to be. So that's, but these are helpful for some of them, but the reality is, for the most part with the apps, I think that's a pretty, in terms of the area as far as tools, that's a pretty overhyped market. There's only so much that people can do, and for the most part, they get most of their searching done if they're on your site and you're sending them a steady stream of new homes on the market for the criteria that they're looking for, and you give them the ability to see how that's going to affect their commute, and you give them the ability to see, with surrounding area info, what the other homes are going for in the area. Really, you don't, having that on an iPhone, most people really don't sit there and browse on an iPhone as much, because of the fact that it's just too small and they can't see very well, and so that really limits the application of some of these things. Okay, I want to show you another couple little tools that I went into, and you guys have a couple of great sites out there that do a lot of stuff, and again, there's a lot of ads on them. But HamptonRoads.com, this is another one where somebody says, well, gosh, is there something to do around town that you can use? And it was just pure coincidence that both of them were labeled, whatever it is, .com/attractions. But HamptonRoads.com/attractions and NorfolkDowntown.com/attractions have essentially short lists of the different things that may be useful for people or may be interesting for people to go see. And that's a quick way for you to go send them to some place that has, 10 or 20 good things for them to go look at. And really, for somebody who's coming in from out of town, yes, they're going to come into town to look at a house, but they also want to see what's out there to do and what's out there to see and what's out there to explore. And we're going to be working on some other things in regards to that, and basically providing you some more resources along those means. But these are two good tools to start from that basically give you and they're just basically website pages, so they're a quick way to do it. We talked about crime data. I went back and looked, and somebody chimed in about there's one on Facebook called Virginia Beach Nightlife, and that's great. I appreciate that. Appreciate you for letting me know about that one. I did not see that one, so that's great. I don't spend a huge amount of time on Facebook, so I'm on it, but I don't spend a huge amount of time, so I missed that. Thank you for bringing it up. That's another good one, and that may be, that may be a great way to go in and let them know that things are happening down here. This is a happening place. That's good. If you have any other suggestions for that sort of thing, please feel free to pop into the questions thing, and I'll be glad to share them. With crime data, we talked about spotcrime.com. That was the only one that I really, that was the best one that I found. I went back and looked again for more to see if there's any others. The only other thing that I found that I really thought that you might find useful is for somebody who's looking in terms of a sex offender registry. Obviously, this is the resource that you go to for that. You can send out notifications. You can search by address, to find offenders that are around it, all subject to the limitations of Virginia law. And those official sites like that are really where you want to send people when it comes to that sort of thing, because you really don't. You want to be the source of the source. So you want to be the one that sends it to them. Okay, and somebody else chimed in, and we're okay. Great. Does anybody else have any other questions about about the stuff that we've covered so far? We're getting close to the end. Or if you have any other resources that you use that I haven't mentioned that you'd be willing to share, I'd really appreciate that as well. The whole idea of all of these things is to create a good experience with people that you've already connected with a little bit, but you really want to cement that relationship. And one of the biggest uncertainties that people have coming into an area is, well, gosh, what's it going to be like? In many cases, they're uprooting their whole family, and in many cases, their whole family's not around. I was talking with somebody who was over for dinner last night, and they're moving back to Idaho from Louisville, and they were talking about how, I say moving back, it wasn't back for them, but moving to Idaho from Louisville, and I was talking with them about the uncertainties and what it was like going there, and they had a lot of preconceived notions about what things were like and what things would be like when they got there. And they have 3 young kids, and they just came over for pizza with our family, and we just sat down and were talking. But the point is, I didn't realize, I'd forgotten, because I've lived in the same place for 16 years now. I'd forgotten how unsettling that is. It's an unsettling time for people, and it's emotional. Sometimes they're moving away from family. Sometimes they're moving to family. That's emotional as well, for other reasons. But it really is a time when you can connect with them, you can help them, and we're going to be providing you some more resources I can't go into right now, but we're working on them so that you can have more things that you can point people to that are basically going to give them more tools than this, tools that are going to be more personalized to Treg and to your brokerage and to you, so that you can really brand yourself. Joe just asked me, have I looked at zipskinny.com? I did, and I don't remember it. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. I just forgot, Joe. Sorry about that. We'll pull it up. All right. And basically, what this does is, and I'm going to put my zip code in there because I've forgotten yours. Hang on, isn't it 20332 or something like that for Chesapeake? Oh, 23320. I was close. Not doing too bad for my age. Okay, what it does. Remember, I told you a couple of times ago that all data, every piece of data that you have, that is real estate related, comes from 3 sources. It comes from either the courthouse where there's a closing, it comes from the MLS, or it comes from the government, and most often that's the census, or it's some mashup or amalgamation of those. That's how all data for real estate, and as long as you remember that, it's pretty neat. So what this does is this basically breaks out the demographics, where you type in the zip code, and it instantly gives you out what the breakdown of folks are in terms of income, in terms of occupation, in terms of all sorts of things, right? And and I'm going to scroll down a little bit to see it. I appreciate that, Joe, for reminding me of that. It breaks out the demographics in terms of age and race and female to male and all of this. This is all Census Bureau information, and it really does it does help you out. And the nice thing about it is as Joe Cross pointed out to me, is that you can go and compare where you are now to where you will be. And I think a lot of that, I can't stress highly enough that that's important, because really what people are looking for, they're looking for, well, what's it going to be like when I get there? But underlying that question, whether it's when they first get on a website and they go, okay, I'm going to search for $150,000 to $200,000 houses, you can bet that that's what the price of their house is right there. And what they're doing is they're seeing, well, if I can get this for 150 here in Manhattan, Kansas, then what? How am I going to? What'll that buy me in Virginia Beach. And they do the same thing with demographics. They do the same thing with places to visit and things to see. They go, gosh, you know, what does Virginia Beach have to offer to me in terms of nightlife that Manhattan, Kansas, you know, doesn't? And you know, obviously, my guess would be a lot, but the point is that they're comparing, and basically as they window shop, they're going to look back and they're going to go, is this going to be an upgrade or a downgrade in my life? And that's really that underlying question. Is this going to be an upgrade or a downgrade? Am I going to first class? Am I staying in coach, or am I moved back to the back of the plane where there's no, you know, it takes a long time to get off the plane when we land? That's really what they're asking for, and so this is a good way to do it. Zip Skinny, that's a good resource, Joe. I did look at it, but I forgot to put it in here. That is a good resource, and the thing I like most about it is that it's just really quick. You know, there's not a lot of other stuff there. It's basically, yeah, here's your data. It's right there for you. Have a good one. And so it's very quick to show somebody that, and they can go get it. It does have charts, and it does have a when you talk about comparison, you can compare them right up here. You can get schools, which is another way to do it. And I looked at that, so I wanted to go through that a little bit. What I like about these is that it basically breaks out the demographics, and it looks at the student-teacher ratio. It's basically getting the raw data and just stuffing it in here that it gets from the government sources. That's what it's all about. There's not a lot of fluff or opinion. What I don't like about this one as much is that there's less reviews and that sort of thing, and I think that's more attractive for somebody like going to great schools, is they'll see what people think of the school and everything like that. That can either be good or it can be bad, obviously, but this is basically sort of a just the facts, ma'am sort of approach to it. I like that. And there's a map there, and you know, there's all sorts of things that you can do. The charts, just so I'll show you what they are so you can see them. I found them a little bit confusing, but it's up to you. Basically, they break down the demographics. Instead of looking at them by numbers, they look at them by a graph. I'm not, you know, they were a little bit confusing for me, but overall, I really like the fact that the info is there. So I think that's a good resource, and the nice thing I like about that is, for somebody who is a just the facts sort of person, a number oriented person, this would be like nirvana for them, because they're able to go in and compare it and look and compare and contrast what they have versus where they're going. So anyway, I'm sorry I forgot that, Joe. I'm glad you brought it up. I appreciate that. And does anybody else have any other questions about any of these types of tools and what we're doing? If you don't, I appreciate your time, and we're going to have a great. Somebody looks like somebody did. Hang on a second. Okay, they were just thanking me because they thought I was going to get off. Well, anyway, it was a great one. I enjoyed it, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks with some more tools and some more ideas for you on how to use some of this stuff. So I appreciate it, and hope you guys have a great couple of weeks.